The Blue Line subway tunnels beneath Chicago held more secrets than most passengers realized. For Marcus Wilson, 15 years of operating the same route had taught him to notice patterns. Like the teenage girl in the beige hoodie who boarded his train every weekday at 3:42, sat in the same third-car seat, and silently wept while other passengers stared at phones. On day 17 of watching her tears, Marcus found himself alone during end-of-shift inspection, his flashlight catching the corner of a folded paper wedged beneath her regular seat. The message inside froze his blood. "Tomorrow will be my last ride." Before we dive in, I'm curious, where are you watching from right now, and what time is it in your corner of the world? Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories about everyday heroes, subscribe to keep my motivation flowing. The fluorescent lights of the Chicago subway system cast everyone in the same sickly glow. Marcus Wilson had been driving the Blue Line for 15 years, long enough to know that the underground had its own heartbeat, its own rhythm that most people never bothered to feel. Approaching Western Station, Marcus announced mechanically into the intercom, his voice bouncing through the 6 cars of his train. Nobody looked up. Nobody acknowledged him. Just another invisible cog in the machinery of the city. He watched through his rearview mirror as the doors slid open. The usual afternoon crowd shuffled in, office workers with loosened ties, students with oversized backpacks, service workers heading to evening shifts. And there she was again, right on schedule, 3:42 p.m. The girl couldn't be older than 15. Today, like every weekday for the past 3 weeks, she wore that same beige hoodie pulled low over her face, the same worn jeans. She moved with her shoulders hunched, as if trying to disappear inside herself. Without looking up, she navigated to the third car and took her usual seat next to the window. Marcus frowned as he pulled the train away from the platform. Something about this girl had been nagging at him since he first noticed her. Perhaps it was because she reminded him of his own teenage years, that same look of quiet desperation, of being trapped in circumstances beyond control. Through the security feed, Marcus watched her reflection in the window glass. Her face crumpled as the first silent tears began to fall. Like clockwork. Every day, same time, same seat, same silent crying. The businessman sitting across from her adjusted his position to stare more intently at his phone. The woman next to her shifted uncomfortably and moved 1 seat away. Nobody offered a tissue. Nobody asked if she was okay. "We've become experts at looking away," Marcus muttered to himself, the words bitter in his mouth. His recent divorce had scraped him raw, made him notice other people's pain more acutely. The indifference of the world struck him as almost violent now. As the train rocked along the tracks, Marcus made a decision. Today he would leave the safety of his operator's cabin. Today he would see if the girl was all right. But by the time he reached Jackson Station, where she always disembarked, the girl had already slipped away into the crowd, another ghost in the underground, carrying whatever burden made her cry with such silent regularity. The next day brought steady rain that sent rivulets streaming down the subway stairwells. Marcus wiped condensation from his glasses as he settled into his operator's chair, preparing for another shift. Today felt different somehow, electric with possibility or warning, he couldn't tell which. "Attention passengers, please stand clear of the closing doors," Marcus announced, his eyes already scanning for the girl in the beige hoodie. Western Station approached, and sure enough, at 3:42 p.m., she appeared. But something was different. The hood was pulled even lower today, her movements more stilted. As she took her usual seat, Marcus caught something that made his stomach tighten, a dark bruise circling her wrist, visible for just a moment as she adjusted her sleeve. "Jesus," he whispered, a cold feeling spreading through his chest. The security camera showed her hunched smaller than usual, her body language screaming everything her voice didn't. The businessman was there again, eyes fixed on his screen. 3 teenagers laughed loudly at the opposite end of the car. A woman with shopping bags occupied herself with her cell phone, all of them forming a perfect circle of indifference around the silently weeping girl. Marcus felt something inside him crack. Each tear that slid down her cheeks seemed to demand a response, any response, from someone, anyone. But the subway car moved on, swallowing her pain in the white noise of urban anonymity. When his shift ended, Marcus found himself drawn to the third car. He told himself he was just performing a routine inspection, but his feet carried him directly to her seat. The evening maintenance crew wouldn't arrive for another 20 minutes. He had the train to himself. Marcus ran his flashlight along the seat cushions, not sure what he was looking for until the beam caught on something. There, wedged in the narrow gap between the seat and the wall, was a folded piece of paper. His hand hesitated. This wasn't his business. He should report it. Let the proper authorities handle it. But the memory of that bruise, those silent tears, pushed him forward. His fingers closed around the paper and pulled it free. The note was written in neat small handwriting that slanted to the right. My name is Ellie Simmons. I'm 15 years old. For anyone who finds this, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. He hurts me every night. Mom doesn't see it, or maybe she pretends not to. I've tried telling teachers. I've tried telling a counselor. Nobody believes me because of who he is. Nobody helps. The little ones can't protect themselves like I can. I'm so tired. Tomorrow will be my last ride. I hope someone will check on my step-siblings after I'm gone. They live at 1428 Maple Street. They need help too. Marcus read the note 3 times, his hands beginning to shake. The words "tomorrow will be my last ride" echoed in his head like the screech of emergency brakes. This wasn't teenage melodrama. This was a suicide note. He checked his watch, 7:15 p.m. Tomorrow meant Wednesday. Less than 24 hours to find this girl before she did something irreversible. Marcus sank into the seat, the note heavy in his hands. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Suddenly sinister, he thought about calling the police, but something held him back. The girl's words haunted him. Nobody believes me because of who he is. Who was this man that made authorities dismiss a child's cry for help? His phone buzzed. A text from his ex-wife, Catherine. Did you sign the final papers yet? Marcus stared at the screen. The divorce paperwork suddenly insignificant compared to the note in his hand. He could call Catherine. She worked as a counselor at Westridge Academy, one of the private schools along his route. Maybe she would know something. The maintenance crew's voices echoed from the platform. Marcus quickly took a photo of the note with his phone before carefully returning it exactly where he found it. If Ellie came looking for it tomorrow, he didn't want her to know someone had discovered her plan. As he walked home through the rain-slicked streets, Marcus couldn't shake the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. For once in his life, he couldn't just be a passive observer. A child's life depended on what he did next. Sleep evaded Marcus that night. He sat at his kitchen table until dawn, staring at the photo of Ellie's note while rain tapped against his windows. Coffee mugs piled up as he debated his options, each one flawed. Call the police. What if Ellie's abuser really did have influence there? The wrong officer could alert him, making things worse. Child Protective Services? Same problem. Plus the notorious backlog of cases. His ex-wife? Catherine might help, but their relationship had deteriorated into terse text messages about paperwork. By morning, Marcus had made his decision. He would approach Ellie directly. It violated transit protocols and probably several workplace regulations, but regulations wouldn't save a life. "You look like hell," said Damon, the station manager, as Marcus clocked in. "Rough night," Marcus muttered, checking his watch. 8 hours until Ellie's regular boarding time. The morning crawled by. Marcus arranged for Frank, another operator to cover his position for 5 minutes during the 3:42 stop at Western Station. "I need a bathroom break at exactly that time," Marcus explained, not meeting Frank's eyes. "Must be that clockwork prostate," Frank joked, but agreed. At 3:40, Marcus's heart pounded as he pulled into Western Station. His palms slicked with sweat as he spotted her on the platform. Same beige hoodie, same downcast eyes. She was alive. He still had time. Frank took the controls. Marcus slipped out of the cabin and moved quickly through the first 2 cars. By the time he reached the third, Ellie was already in her seat, staring out the window. Marcus approached carefully. Aware of how threatening he might appear, a middle-aged man approaching a teenage girl in an enclosed space. He stopped at a respectful distance. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Ellie?" Her head snapped up, eyes wide with alarm. The train lurched forward. Other passengers glanced curiously in their direction. "I'm Marcus. I operate this train," he said, showing his ID badge. The color drained from her face. Her eyes darted toward the doors as if calculating escape. "I'm not here to hurt you," Marcus said quickly. "I want to help. Please, just talk to me." "You can't help," she whispered, pulling her sleeves down over her wrists. "Nobody can." "I can try," Marcus insisted. "What you wrote about tomorrow being your last ride. You don't have to do that. There are other options." A tear slid down her cheek. "You don't understand. He'll never stop. And now he's starting with my little stepsister." "Your stepfather?" Marcus asked. Ellie's gaze grew sharp. "I never said it was my stepfather." "You didn't have to," Marcus said gently. "The bruises, the fact that authorities won't help, he's someone with influence, isn't he?" The train announcement chimed. "Next stop, Jackson." Ellie gathered her backpack. "I have to go. He checks the time when I get home." "Wait," Marcus said, reaching into his pocket. He handed her a small packet of tissues and slipped a business card inside. "My number is on there. Call me any time, day or night." She hesitated, then took the tissues. "You shouldn't get involved. You don't know what he's capable of." "Who is he, Ellie?" The train slowed. Ellie stood, clutching her backpack like a shield. "Detective James Harmon," she whispered, "head of juvenile affairs." The doors opened. Ellie moved to leave, then turned back. "I didn't write that note for someone to save me. I wrote it so someone would save them after I'm gone." She disappeared into the crowd before Marcus could respond. Back in the operator's cabin, Marcus's mind raced. A police detective. No wonder the girl's previous attempts to get help had failed. The system designed to protect children was being corrupted by one of its own guardians. During his break, Marcus called Catherine. After 3 rings, he expected voicemail, but she answered, "Marcus? Is something wrong with the divorce papers?" "This isn't about us," he said. "It's about a student who might be in danger, Ellie Simmons. Do you know her?" The silence on the other end confirmed it before Catherine spoke. "How do you know that name?" "She rides my train. Every day she sits and cries. She left a suicide note. Catherine. She's being abused by her stepfather." "James Harmon," Catherine said, her voice suddenly tight. "You know." A heavy sigh came through the phone. "Ellie came to me 6 months ago with allegations. I started an investigation, but..." Catherine paused. "The administration received a call from the police department. They said Ellie had a history of false allegations, attention-seeking behavior. They showed documentation." "Falsified documentation," Marcus said. "Catherine, she's planning to kill herself. Tomorrow..." "Oh, God," Catherine whispered. "I should have pushed harder. I knew something felt wrong about those reports." "I need your help," Marcus said. "We both failed her in different ways, but we can still make it right." After a moment of silence, Catherine's voice returned. Stronger. Meet me after your shift. Bring everything you have. We're not letting this girl down again. For the first time in months, Marcus and Catherine were united by something bigger than their broken marriage, a chance to save a life that hung precariously in the balance. Rainwater puddled beneath the awning of the coffee shop where Marcus waited. Through the foggy window, he saw Catherine arrive, her red umbrella bright against the gray evening. 5 years of marriage, 1 year of separation. And now they were meeting like strangers over a crisis neither was equipped to handle. "I brought her school records," Catherine said, sliding into the booth. Her hair was shorter than when he'd last seen her, her face more drawn. "And I have the note," Marcus replied, showing her the photo on his phone. Catherine read it, her professional composure cracking. "This is explicit, a clear cry for help." She opened a folder containing Ellie's school file. Her attendance has been spotty this semester. Grades dropping, 2 visits to the nurse for falls in the past month. "Classic signs," Marcus said. "The problem is Detective Harmon's reputation," Catherine explained. "He's received commendations for his work with at-risk youth. He gives talks about child safety, the perfect cover." Marcus leaned forward. Ellie mentioned younger step-siblings. Catherine flipped through papers. 2. A boy, age 7, and a girl, age 5. Different father than Ellie. They don't attend our school. "We need evidence," Marcus said. "Something irrefutable that not even a decorated detective can explain away." They formed a plan. Catherine would document any new injuries Ellie came to school with. Marcus would create opportunities to speak with Ellie during her subway rides, building trust and gathering information. They exchanged new phone numbers, creating a communication channel separate from their divorce proceedings. The next day, Ellie appeared at her usual time, but something had changed. When she saw Marcus watching from the operator's window, she gave a small nod, acknowledgement, not quite trust. At Jackson Station, Marcus arranged another brief handoff to Frank. This time he gave Ellie a small notebook. "Write everything down," he told her. "Dates, times, exactly what happens. Take photos of any injuries with this." He slipped her a prepaid phone with a camera. "Hide it well." "He searches my room," Ellie whispered. "Put the notebook under that loose seat where you left your note. I'll check it every night." Over the next 2 weeks, a grim record accumulated. The notebook detailed methodical abuse. Punishments timed to avoid school days. Injuries placed where clothes would cover them. Threats leveraged against the younger children to ensure Ellie's silence. Catherine documented what she could at school. A sprained wrist explained away as a sports injury. Unusual bruising on Ellie's neck attributed to a costume jewelry allergic reaction. "He's smart," Catherine told Marcus during their 3rd meeting. "He knows exactly how to create plausible deniability." Then came the day Ellie didn't appear at 3:42 or the day after. "She's been withdrawn from school," Catherine reported, voice tight with worry. Her mother came in yesterday, said they're transitioning to homeschooling. "He knows," Marcus said, the realization like ice water in his veins. "Somehow he knows we're building a case." That night, Marcus did something he'd never done before. He looked up Detective Harmon's address from the information in Ellie's note and drove past the house, a well-maintained 2-story in a respectable neighborhood. Through lit windows, he glimpsed a woman moving in the kitchen. No sign of children. As he circled the block, a police cruiser pulled away from the curb. Marcus ducked down, heart pounding. When he looked up, he caught a glimpse of Harmon behind the wheel, face illuminated by dashboard lights. Handsome, authoritative, completely unremarkable, the kind of face people instinctively trusted. Marcus was about to leave when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Help us. Locked in basement. E." His hands shook as he called Catherine. "Ellie texted me they're locked in the basement. You need to call the police." Catherine insisted. And tell them what? That one of their decorated detectives is abusing his stepchildren? We need something concrete first. Marcus, this is dangerous. You're a subway operator, not a police officer. I'm the only one she reached out to, Marcus argued. I'm going back tonight. I just need to figure out how to get a look inside without being seen. Catherine's sigh conveyed both frustration and resignation. Don't go alone. I'm coming with you. They parked 2 blocks away, dressed in dark clothes. The neighborhood was quiet. Most windows dark as midnight approached. They circled to the back of Harmon's property, where a tall fence surrounded the yard. There, Marcus whispered, pointing to a basement window with a faint light showing through thick curtains. As they moved closer, they heard it, a child's muffled crying. Catherine's hand clamped around Marcus's arm, her nails digging in. We need to document this, she whispered. Marcus nodded, taking out his phone to record the sound. A dog barked in a nearby yard. Seconds later, lights flicked on upstairs in Harmon's house. Marcus pulled Catherine behind a tree as a door opened. Checking the perimeter, Harmon's voice called inside, "Go back to bed." They remained frozen as Harmon circled the yard, flashlight sweeping across the grass. When he returned inside, Marcus released his breath. "We can't get to them tonight," Catherine whispered. "But we have the recording. Let's take this to state police tomorrow, bypass local jurisdiction completely." As they crept away, Marcus glanced back at the basement window. The curtain moved slightly, a small hand pressing against the glass for just a moment before disappearing. The next morning, Marcus called in sick for the first time in 5 years. He and Catherine drove to the state police headquarters, requesting to speak with someone from Crimes Against Children. Detective Sarah Luntz listened to their evidence without expression, then sighed. "What you're describing is concerning, but it's not enough for a warrant. Detective Harmon is well respected. These could be interpreted as normal discipline, and the basement could just be the children's play area." They texted for help. Marcus insisted, showing the message. "From an unknown number," Luntz pointed out. "And it could stand for anything. I'm not dismissing you, but I need more to move against a fellow officer." "How much more does it take?" Catherine demanded. "A dead child?" Detective Luntz straightened. "Give me 48 hours to quietly investigate. I'll put surveillance on the house. If there's evidence of what you're describing, we'll move in with proper authority." "Those kids might not have 48 hours, Marcus argued. "If you interfere before I complete my investigation, you could destroy any case we build," Luntz warned. "Stay away from that house." But as they left the station, another text came through. "He knows about Notebook." Very angry. "Hurting my brother? Please hurry." Marcus showed Catherine. Her face paled. 48 hours is too long. "I know another way in," Marcus said suddenly. "The city blueprints. There's a utility tunnel that runs near that block. I've seen transit workers use it for access to the power grid that feeds the subway lines." "You want to break in through a utility tunnel?" Catherine asked incredulously. "I want to get those kids out alive," Marcus replied. "Are you with me?" Catherine hesitated only briefly before nodding. "What's the plan?" By dusk, they had gathered flashlights, Marcus's transit authority keys, and a burner phone to call Detective Luntz when they had proof. The utility entrance was hidden in a nondescript maintenance shed 4 blocks from Harmon's house. The tunnel should lead within 20 yards of his property line, Marcus explained as they descended metal stairs into the damp underground passage. There should be a junction box near his house. These older neighborhoods all have access points. The tunnel stretched before them, dark and claustrophobic. Water dripped from pipes overhead. Marcus fought back memories of being locked in a closet as a child, of darkness closing in. Catherine seemed to sense his discomfort, her hand finding his briefly. "You don't have to do this," she said. Marcus shook his head. Yes, I do. They moved slowly, counting access points, until they reached the one that should be near Harmon's property. A metal ladder led up to a heavy grate. With effort, Marcus pushed it open, revealing a small utility space behind Harmon's garage. Night had fallen completely. The house was lit only by a television's blue glow through front windows. Marcus led Catherine along the side of the house to the basement window they'd seen before. The curtain was drawn, but they could hear movement inside. Marcus tapped gently on the glass. The curtain moved slightly, revealing Ellie's frightened face. She mouthed something, "Back door." They crept to the rear of the house. The back door was locked, but the adjacent window wasn't fully latched. Catherine kept watch while Marcus carefully worked it open, creating just enough space to slide through. The house was quiet, except for the murmur of the television upstairs. They moved silently toward the basement door in the kitchen, finding it locked from the outside, a fire code violation that now served as evidence of imprisonment. Marcus unlocked it, and they descended creaking stairs into the basement. The sight that greeted them stole their breath. Ellie and two smaller children huddled on a bare mattress in the corner. The younger boy's arm was in a makeshift sling, his face streaked with tears. The little girl was asleep, or perhaps unconscious, her breathing shallow. "You came," Ellie whispered, disbelief and hope warring in her voice. "We're getting you out," Marcus promised, helping the boy to his feet while Catherine examined the little girl. "She needs a hospital," Catherine said. "She's dehydrated, and I think she may have a concussion." A creak from above froze them all. Footsteps crossed the kitchen floor toward the basement door. "Hide," Ellie hissed. Marcus pushed Catherine behind a storage shelf, positioned himself behind the stairs, and motioned for Ellie to return to the mattress with her siblings. His heart hammered so loudly he was certain it would give him away. The basement door opened. Light spilled down the stairs, and Detective James Harmon descended, his shadow stretching across the concrete floor like something from a nightmare. Detective Harmon carried himself with the confidence of a man accustomed to authority. In one hand, he held a glass of amber liquid. In the other, Ellie's notebook. "Quite the storyteller, aren't you?" he said, his voice smooth as polished stone. He didn't shout. Somehow that made it more terrifying. From his hiding place, Marcus could see Ellie pulling her siblings closer, positioning herself as a shield. Her face revealed nothing. She'd learned to hide her fear. "I asked you a question, Eleanor," Harmon said, ice creeping into his tone. "It's not stories," Ellie replied, her voice steady despite everything. "It's what you did." Harmon laughed, the sound utterly devoid of humor. "What I did. I took you in when your father abandoned you. I provide for you. I discipline you when you need it." He flipped through the notebook. This is the fantasy of a troubled girl seeking attention. Is this seeking attention? Ellie carefully rolled up her sleeve, revealing bruises in distinct finger patterns. Harmon's expression darkened. "You know how easily you bruise. Always so dramatic." He took a long sip from his glass. "But this," he held up the notebook. "This crosses a line, involving strangers in family matters." "They're not strangers," Ellie said. "They care what happens to us." Harmon's smile chilled Marcus to the bone. "You mean the subway operator and your former counselor?" "Yes, I know all about them." Marcus felt his blood freeze. Behind the shelf, Catherine stifled a gasp. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" Harmon continued. "I'm a detective. I observe things for a living." He crouched to eye level with the children. "I've already filed a report about an unstable man stalking you. Your transit friend will lose his job by morning." The little boy whimpered. Harmon's hand shot out, gripping his injured arm. The child bit his lip to stay silent. "Stop," Ellie pleaded. "I'll throw away the notebook. I'll stop talking to them." "Too late," Harmon said, standing. Trust has been broken. There are consequences for that. He moved toward the stairs, pausing at the bottom step. No dinner tonight. Tomorrow we discuss your mother's suggestion of boarding school, somewhere very far away. The door closed behind him. The lock clicked. Footsteps retreated. Marcus emerged from his hiding place, shaking with rage. Catherine was already moving toward the children, medical training kicking in as she assessed the little girl's condition. "We need to get them out now," she whispered urgently. "That little one needs a hospital." "He'll notice they're gone immediately," Marcus said. "He's been drinking," Ellie offered. "Usually means he'll pass out within an hour." Marcus checked his watch. "Then we wait exactly 1 hour. Catherine, keep monitoring the little one." "What's her name?" "Sophie," Ellie said. "And that's Mason." Marcus squeezed Mason's good shoulder gently. "You're being really brave, buddy." The boy looked up with eyes too old for his face. "Are you really going to help us? For real?" The question pierced Marcus's heart. "Yes, for real." They waited in tense silence. Catherine used supplies from her purse to clean cuts on Sophie's forehead, checking her pupils with a small flashlight. Marcus climbed halfway up the stairs every few minutes, listening for movement. 53 minutes later, they heard a door close upstairs, followed by heavy footsteps overhead that eventually faded. More importantly, they heard snoring. "It's time," Marcus whispered. He unlocked the basement door from the inside and eased it open. The kitchen was dark, except for a nightlight. Marcus motioned for the others to wait while he checked the rest of the first floor. The living room revealed Harmon sprawled in a recliner, empty glass on the side table, snoring steadily. The front and back doors had dead bolts requiring keys. Marcus returned to the basement stairs and waved them up. "We'll go out the window I came in through," he whispered. Catherine carried Sophie. Marcus helped Mason. Ellie followed, casting one last look at the man in the recliner, not with fear, but with something like pity mixed with disgust. The window proved more challenging with children. Marcus went first, then helped lift Mason and Sophie out to Catherine. Ellie was halfway through when a thunderous voice froze them all. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Harmon stood in the doorway to the kitchen, swaying slightly but eyes sharp with rage. "Go!" Marcus shouted, pushing Ellie fully through the window. "Run! Get to the car!" Catherine hesitated only a second before gathering the children and racing toward the utility access point where they'd emerge near their parked car. Marcus turned to face Harmon just as the detective's fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling across the kitchen floor. Breaking and entering, Harmon snarled, advancing. "Kidnapping. You've made a fatal mistake, Wilson." Marcus scrambled backward, tasting blood. "The only mistake was not stopping you sooner." Harmon laughed. "Stop me. I am the law in this district. Who do you think people will believe? A decorated officer or a subway rat with a history of mental health issues?" Marcus froze. "How do you know about my history?" "I know everything about you," Harmon said, pulling his service weapon from a kitchen drawer. "Your childhood abuse, your divorce, your psychiatric medication. I've been watching you since you started watching Ellie." A chill ran through Marcus. The hunter had become the hunted without even realizing it. "You won't get away with this," Marcus said, eyes fixed on the gun. "I already have." For years, Harmon gestured with the weapon. The basement, now. Marcus's mind raced. Catherine would call Detective Luntz once she reached safety with the children. But how long would that take? Minutes? Hours? "The children need medical attention," Marcus said, trying to buy time. "What they need is discipline," Harmon growled. "Something their mother is too weak to provide." "Is that what you call breaking a 7-year-old's arm? Discipline?" Harmon's face darkened. "That was an accident. He fell." "After you pushed him down the stairs," Marcus countered. "Shut up!" Harmon roared, the gun shaking in his hand. "You know nothing about my family. I know Sophie has a concussion. I know Mason cries silently because he's afraid of making noise. I know Ellie was ready to die rather than live one more day under your roof." Something shifted in Harmon's eyes, a flicker of doubt quickly replaced by resolve. Basement, now. Marcus had no choice but to comply. As they descended the stairs, he noticed Harmon's movements were growing less coordinated. The alcohol was affecting him more as the adrenaline ebbed. In the basement, Harmon motioned Marcus to the far corner. "What's your plan here, detective?" Marcus asked, deliberately using his title. "Kill me? Make it look like suicide." "Something like that," Harmon muttered, glancing at his watch. "By morning, I'll be the victim of a deranged stalker who broke into my home. The children will confirm it." "They're gone," Marcus reminded him. "They'll tell the truth. They'll say what their mother tells them to say," Harmon countered, "and she'll say whatever keeps her comfortable lifestyle intact." A noise upstairs made them both look up. Harmon frowned. "Stay put, make a sound, and I'll shoot you where you sit." As Harmon climbed the stairs, Marcus spotted something under the mattress where the children had been, Ellie's phone, the one he'd given her. He lunged for it, checking the screen. A text had been sent 5 minutes ago. "Detective Luntz, coming now. Stall him." Marcus felt a surge of hope as he heard voices upstairs. Then a crash, followed by shouting. Heavy footsteps pounded overhead. The basement door burst open. Harmon stumbled backward down the stairs, losing his footing halfway and tumbling to the concrete floor. His gun skittered away. Detective Luntz appeared at the top of the stairs, her own weapon drawn. "Police, don't move." 2 uniformed officers appeared behind her, moving quickly down to secure Harmon, who lay groaning on the floor. "Marcus Wilson," Luntz called. "Here," Marcus answered, stepping forward on shaky legs. "Mr. Wilson, are you injured?" "I'll live." "The children?" "Safe, in an ambulance." Luntz holstered her weapon. "Your ex-wife is quite persuasive. She called me directly instead of dispatch." As the officers handcuffed Harmon, Marcus saw something break in the man's expression. The realization that his carefully constructed world of control was shattering. "This isn't over," Harmon spat. "Actually," Luntz said, pulling a small device from her pocket, "it is." She pressed a button, and Harmon's voice filled the basement. "By morning, I'll be the victim of a deranged stalker who broke into my home. The children will confirm it." Marcus recognized his transit radio, modified to record. He'd accidentally activated it during the confrontation. As they led Harmon away, Marcus felt the accumulated tension of weeks begin to dissolve. The children were safe. The truth was exposed, and somehow, in the midst of this nightmare, he and Catherine had found their way back to working together for something that mattered more than their failed marriage. The hospital corridor seemed engineered for discomfort. Too bright, too sterile, smelling of industrial cleaners and fear. Marcus sat on a molded plastic chair outside the children's ward, a paper cup of terrible coffee cooling between his palms. His jaw ached where Harmon had struck him. The clock on the wall read 3:17 a.m. Catherine emerged from Sophie's room, exhaustion etched across her face. She sank into the chair beside him. "Doctor says she'll recover," Catherine said. "No permanent damage from the concussion, but she's malnourished and showing signs of long-term stress." "And Mason?" Marcus asked. "Broken arm, previously untreated. They've set it properly now." She rubbed her eyes. "Ellie's with them both. She refuses to leave their side." Detective Luntz approached, notepad in hand. The past 4 hours had been a blur of statements, evidence collection, and medical examinations. "We found a lot more than we expected at the house," Luntz said, taking a seat across from them. "False police reports, altered medical records, evidence tampering in at least 3 other child abuse cases. He was systematically protecting other abusers? Catherine asked, horrified. Luntz nodded grimly. A network of them, prominent people, a judge, 2 doctors, a principal. They watched each other's backs, buried complaints, intimidated witnesses. Marcus felt sick. What about the children's mother? Being questioned now, Luntz replied, appears to be another victim, though she enabled the abuse through inaction. She claims Harmon threatened to take the children away permanently if she interfered. Will she get custody back? Catherine asked. Unlikely, at least not soon. The children will be placed with their maternal grandmother temporarily. Luntz hesitated. There's something else. We found surveillance equipment in your apartment. Mr. Wilson, Harmon has been monitoring you for weeks. Marcus felt a chill. That's how he knew about my past. He was thorough, Luntz confirmed. His house contained files on both of you, including medical records, employment history, even your divorce proceedings. Catherine reached for Marcus's hand instinctively. What happens now? Harmon is in custody. Denied bail given the flight risk and severity of charges. The investigation is expanding to include his associates. Luntz closed her notepad. You two should get some rest. We'll need you both for additional statements tomorrow, but the immediate danger has passed. As Luntz departed, an uncomfortable silence settled between Marcus and Catherine. Their hands remained joined, neither acknowledging it nor pulling away. I never knew, Catherine finally said, about your childhood. The abuse? Marcus stiffened. Harmon accessed sealed records. Why didn't you tell me? We were married for 5 years. Some things are easier to bury than discuss, Marcus said, voice tight. You had your own pain, your miscarriages. Catherine's breath caught. They hadn't spoken of the lost pregnancies in years. Is that why you became a school counselor? Marcus asked. The children you couldn't have? Perhaps, she admitted. Is that why you noticed Ellie when no one else did? The help you never received? Before Marcus could answer, a nurse appeared. Ellie's asking for you both. They found Ellie sitting between the hospital beds of her sleeping siblings, her face haggard but determined. Thank you, she said simply as they entered. No one ever believed me before. I'm sorry it took so long, Catherine replied. Genuine remorse in her voice. I should have looked deeper when you first came to me. And I should have found your note sooner, Marcus added. Ellie shook her head. You found it exactly when you were supposed to. She glanced at her siblings. Detective Luntz says we're going to live with our grandmother.
Is that good?
Marcus asked. A small smile touched Ellie's lips. She makes the best cookies in Chicago, and she never liked him, called him that controlling bastard behind his back. Catherine laughed softly. Sounds like a good judge of character.
Will you visit us?
Ellie asked, sudden vulnerability breaking through her composure. Both of you? Marcus and Catherine exchanged glances. Of course we will, they answered in unison. Later, as morning light began filtering through hospital windows, Marcus and Catherine walked to the parking lot together. The events of the past 24 hours had forged something new between them, not the rekindling of old feelings, but the foundation of something perhaps more enduring. I was wrong about you, Catherine said as they reached her car. During the divorce, I said you never fought for anything important. Marcus leaned against the car, fatigue making his limbs heavy. You weren't wrong then. I didn't fight for us. For you. Why not? Because I didn't believe I deserved to win, he admitted. Deep down I was still that kid locked in a closet, believing I wasn't worth saving. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Marcus looked toward the hospital where 3 children slept safely because he had refused to look away. Now I know some things are worth fighting for. Some people As the sun rose over Chicago, casting long shadows across the parking lot, they stood together in a moment of perfect understanding. The divorce papers waiting in Marcus's apartment seemed suddenly like artifacts from another lifetime. Important still, but no longer defining. Whatever came next, they would face it not as husband and wife, nor even as friends, but as allies who had seen the worst of humanity and chosen to stand against it together. The courthouse loomed like a fortress, all granite and authority. Marcus adjusted his tie, borrowed from Catherine's father, and tried to calm his nerves. 3 weeks had passed since the night at Harmon's house. Today would determine whether the detective faced trial or walked free. Preliminary hearings are usually straightforward. Detective Luntz had explained yesterday, but Harmon has connections. His attorney will try to discredit the evidence and witnesses, especially you two. Now sitting on a hard bench outside courtroom C, Marcus watched people hurry through security checkpoints. Catherine sat beside him, reviewing her statement, her fingers tracing each line as if memorizing a script. "The children won't have to testify today, will they?" Marcus asked.
No, Catherine replied.
"Their recorded statements are sufficient for this stage. If it goes to trial," she left the sentence unfinished. A door opened down the corridor. Marcus's breath caught as 2 officers escorted James Harmon toward the courtroom. The detective wore a suit instead of prison clothes, his appearance impeccable except for the handcuffs at his wrists. He walked with the same confidence Marcus remembered, as if being escorted to court was merely an inconvenience. Harmon's eyes locked with Marcus's as he passed. The detective's mouth curled into a smile that sent ice through Marcus's veins. "He still thinks he's going to win," Marcus whispered. "Men like him always do," Catherine replied. "Their power has protected them for so long they can't conceive of consequences." Harmon's attorney, silver-haired and imposing in an expensive suit, conferred with his client before approaching Marcus and Catherine. "Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Wilson," he began. "Ms. Delaney," Catherine corrected sharply. "We're divorced." The attorney smiled thinly. "My apologies. I wanted to inform you that we'll be challenging the admissibility of evidence obtained during your illegal entry into my client's home." "Your client was holding children prisoner," Marcus said, anger rising. "Allegedly," the attorney replied smoothly. "What's not alleged is your breaking and entering. Detective Harmon is a decorated officer protecting his home from intruders. The narrative is quite clear." "Is that why he confessed on tape to planning to kill me and frame it as suicide?" Marcus asked. The attorney's smile never wavered. "Recordings obtained without consent are inadmissible in Illinois. You should know that, Mr. Wilson, given your psychiatric history." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Catherine stood abruptly. "That's enough," she said. "Save your intimidation tactics for the courtroom." The attorney inclined his head slightly. "As you wish. I merely thought you might appreciate the opportunity to withdraw your statements before they're systematically dismantled in public. Detective Harmon has many supporters in this building." As if to underscore his point, 2 uniformed officers passing by nodded respectfully to Harmon. One whispered something that made the detective smile. After the attorney returned to his client, Catherine gripped Marcus's hand. "Don't let him get to you. They're trying to shake our confidence."
What if he's right?
Marcus asked quietly. "What if the recording is thrown out? What if they paint me as unstable? Then they still have the children's testimony, the medical evidence, the files from Harmon's house, and the other victims coming forward," Catherine reminded him. "We're not alone in this fight anymore." The courtroom doors opened. People began filing in, reporters, legal observers, and faces Marcus didn't recognize. Among them, he spotted Ellie's grandmother, straight-backed and determined. "Mrs. Reynolds," Catherine called, waving her over. "How are the children?" The older woman's face softened. "Better each day," Ellie's starting therapy next week. She asked me to give you this." She handed Marcus a folded paper. Inside was a drawing, crude but powerful, of 3 children holding hands with 2 adults. Beneath it, in careful handwriting, "Thank you for finding my note." Something shifted in Marcus's chest. The fear that had been building dissipated, replaced by resolve. "We should go in," Catherine said, touching his arm gently. As they entered the courtroom, Marcus noticed several officers seated behind the defense table, Harmon's supporters. But behind the prosecution sat even more people, social workers, medical staff from the hospital, and other families whose cases Harmon had buried. Detective Luntz nodded to them from the prosecution table. Beside her sat a stern-faced woman Marcus recognized as the district attorney. "All rise," called the bailiff. As Judge Michaels entered, Marcus stood with Catherine beside him. Across the aisle, Harmon turned to look at them again, his expression still confident, but with something new in his eyes, the faintest flicker of uncertainty. The judge took her seat, reviewed some papers, then gazed out at the courtroom. "The matter before this court is the State versus James Harmon," she announced. "Serious charges have been brought, and serious evidence will be examined." She fixed Harmon with a penetrating stare. "Detective Harmon, I should inform you that I've granted the prosecution's request to expand the scope of admissible evidence to include files recovered from your residence. I'm also permitting testimony from 3 additional victims whose cases you investigated." Harmon's confident smile faltered at last. He whispered urgently to his attorney, whose face had gone rigid. As the proceedings began, Marcus felt Catherine's hand find his again. Whatever happened next, the wall of silence protecting Harmon was finally beginning to crumble. The hearing stretched into its 3rd day, revealing horrors that made spectators gasp and reporters scramble to file stories. Marcus sat through it all, watching James Harmon's carefully constructed facade slowly fracture under the weight of evidence. Each revelation struck like hammer blows, medical records showing patterns of injuries to all 3 children, testimony from neighbors who had reported yelling only to have complaints, lost in the system, school reports flagging concerns that were mysteriously downgraded. Most damning were the files discovered in Harmon's locked home office, detailed records of other abuse cases he had deliberately mishandled, protecting perpetrators who belonged to what prosecutors called a network of mutual protection. Harmon's attorney fought viciously, challenging evidence, questioning motives, painting Marcus and Catherine as unstable vigilantes, interfering in proper parental discipline. But the district attorney was relentless, building a case so comprehensive that even the judge's professional neutrality occasionally slipped to reveal disgust. On the final day, Marcus found himself on the witness stand, Harmon's attorney pacing before him like a predator. "Mr. Wilson, you entered Detective Harmon's home illegally, correct?" "I entered to save 3 children from abuse," Marcus replied. "That wasn't my question," the attorney said sharply. "You broke in, yes or no?" "Yes." "And you have a history of mental health issues, do you not? Depression, anxiety, prescribed medication for both?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I've received treatment for depression, yes. Treatment that began after childhood trauma, alleged abuse that was never proven in court." The district attorney stood. "Objection, Mr. Wilson's medical history is not relevant and constitutes victim harassment." "Your Honor," Harmon's attorney countered, "the defense is establishing the witness's psychological predisposition to project his own traumatic experiences onto others." The judge considered briefly. "I'll allow limited questioning, but tread carefully, counselor." The attorney turned back to Marcus. "Isn't it possible, Mr. Wilson, that your own unresolved trauma led you to see abuse, where there was only normal parental discipline?" Marcus looked directly at Harmon, who watched him with cold calculation. "I saw a 7-year-old with an untreated broken arm," Marcus said evenly. "I saw a 5-year-old with a concussion. I heard a 15-year-old say she would rather die than endure one more day in that house. That's not projection. That's not trauma. That's reality. A reality you documented by illegally recording my client without consent, the attorney pressed, making your key evidence inadmissible. Objection. The district attorney called again. The defense is arguing law, not questioning the witness. Sustained, the judge ruled. The attorney changed tactics. Mr. Wilson, in the months before this incident, you were going through a divorce. Were you not? Wouldn't you agree that your emotional state was compromised? I was divorced, Marcus corrected. The papers were finalized 6 months earlier. And yet you involved your ex-wife in this vigilante action. Why? Because she was Ellie's school counselor. Because she cared about what happened to these children. Or perhaps, the attorney suggested with a thin smile, because you saw this as an opportunity to rekindle a failed relationship? Hero and heroine saving children together. Quite the romantic scenario. Anger flashed through Marcus. We acted to save lives, not to create some fantasy. Yet you and Miss Delaney have been seen together frequently since this incident. Objection, the district attorney shouted. This line of questioning is irrelevant and personally invasive. Sustained, the judge said firmly. Move on, counselor. The attorney's expression hardened. Mr. Wilson, one final question. If you were so concerned about these children, why didn't you simply call Child Protective Services? Marcus leaned forward. I did, 3 times. Each report was marked unfounded within hours. Later we discovered those reports were intercepted by another member of Detective Harmon's network, his partner at Juvenile Affairs, who testified yesterday about their arrangement. The attorney had no response to that. Marcus was dismissed from the stand. As the hearing neared its conclusion, Harmon himself took the stand, against his attorney's visible discomfort. The detective presented himself as a dedicated officer, a concerned stepfather dealing with troubled children, particularly Ellie, whom he described as emotionally disturbed. These allegations are heartbreaking, Harmon said with practiced sincerity. I've spent my career protecting children. To be accused of harming them, especially by a man with clear psychological issues and his ex-wife who failed these children in her professional capacity, he shook his head sadly. During cross-examination, the district attorney approached with a tablet. Detective Harmon, you've painted yourself as a protector of children. Would you describe your relationship with Sophie, Mason, and Ellie as loving? Of course, Harmon replied smoothly. I love those children as my own. I'd like to play something for the court, the district attorney said. This was recovered from Ellie's phone, the one Mr. Wilson provided her to document her abuse. Before Harmon's attorney could object, audio filled the courtroom. You think anyone cares about you? You're nothing. Your real father knew it. That's why he left. Your mother knows it. That's why she lets me handle you. You're lucky I don't throw you out on the street where you belong. Harmon's voice, unmistakable, followed by the sound of something striking flesh and a child's muffled cry. The courtroom fell silent. Harmon's face remained impassive, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. That could be anyone, he finally said. Easily fabricated. We have voice analysis confirmation, the district attorney countered, and 47 similar recordings. Would you like to hear more? For the first time, Harmon looked uncertain. I discipline the children when necessary. Perhaps, sometimes, I speak harshly. Is this speaking harshly? The prosecutor interrupted, playing another clip. One word to anyone about what happens in this house, and I'll make sure your precious little brother and sister pay for it. You think you know what pain is? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Harmon's attorney stood. Your Honor, these recordings were made without my client's knowledge or consent, by a minor in her own home documenting her abuse, the judge interjected. Illinois law makes exception for victims documenting crimes against them. These recordings are admissible. The color drained from Harmon's face. His carefully constructed persona began to crumble as the prosecutor presented recording after recording, each more damning than the last. When the final clip played, Harmon threatening to break Mason's other arm if Ellie didn't delete photos of her injuries, something snapped visibly in the detective. "Those ungrateful little," he started, before his attorney grabbed his arm, silencing him. But it was too late. Everyone had seen the mask slip, revealing the monster beneath. As Harmon stepped down, he passed the prosecution table, his eyes, burning with hatred, fixed on Marcus. "This isn't over," he hissed. Marcus held his gaze steadily. "For you, it is." The judge's decision was decisive. Harmon would stand trial for multiple felony counts of child abuse, evidence tampering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Bail was denied. As officers approached to take Harmon back to holding, the detective made one desperate move. With surprising speed, he lunged across the aisle toward Marcus, hands outstretched for his throat. "You ruined everything!" he screamed. Marcus reacted instinctively, blocking the attack as Catherine pulled him backward. Officers swarmed Harmon, subduing him as he continued to shout threats.
"I'll find you. I'll find those kids."
"You think jail will stop me? I have friends everywhere." As they dragged him out, the courtroom erupted in chaos. The judge pounded her gavel, calling for order. Marcus sat frozen, Catherine's hand gripping his arm. Detective Luntz approached quickly. "Are you all right?" Marcus nodded, still processing what had happened. His outburst just added witness intimidation and attempted assault to his charges, Luntz noted, and removed any doubt about his temperament. Outside the courtroom, reporters clustered, cameras flashing. Marcus and Catherine slipped out a side exit with Luntz's help. In the relative quiet of a conference room, they finally exhaled. "It's really over," Catherine said, disbelief in her voice. "This part is," Luntz confirmed. "The trial will take time, but with the evidence we have, conviction is almost certain. More importantly, his network is unraveling. 3 other officers have been suspended pending investigation. A judge has recused himself. The children are safe." Marcus thought of Ellie's drawing, still folded in his pocket. What happens to them now? "Their grandmother has filed for permanent custody," Luntz explained. "Given the circumstances, it's likely to be granted. Their mother is cooperating fully, admitting she failed to protect them." "Will they recover?" Marcus asked quietly. Catherine touched his arm gently. "Children are remarkably resilient when they're finally safe. With proper support, they have every chance at healing." As they prepared to leave, Marcus felt something shift inside him, a weight lifting, a door closing on old wounds. For years, he had carried his own childhood trauma like a shadow. Today, that shadow seemed less dense, less defining. "Are you coming?" Catherine asked from the doorway. Marcus looked up, seeing not just his ex-wife, but a partner in something profound. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready." Outside, the afternoon sun broke through clouds, casting golden light across the courthouse steps. Whatever came next, for the children, for him and Catherine, for the fractured system that had failed so many, today marked a turning point. Justice, imperfect but real, had finally prevailed. 6 months later, Marcus stood at his usual position in the operator's cabin of the Blue Line train. Autumn had painted Chicago in rich oranges and reds, visible through windows as the train emerged from underground sections. Approaching Western Station, he announced, the familiar words carrying new meaning now. His phone vibrated with a text from Catherine. "We're here." The doors opened at exactly 3:42 p.m. Among the passengers boarding was Ellie, flanked by her grandmother and Catherine. The girl looked different, hair styled in a short bob, cheeks fuller, eyes brighter. She wore a blue coat instead of the beige hoodie, as if shedding the uniform of her suffering. She spotted Marcus through the operator's window and waved enthusiastically. He waved back, joy swelling in his chest. When his break came, Marcus joined them in the third car. Ellie hugged him immediately. Something she couldn't have tolerated months ago. Physical contact had been a trigger then, now it was reclaimed territory. "How's therapy going?" Marcus asked as they settled into seats. "Good," Ellie replied. "Dr. Patel says I'm making excellent progress." She grinned. "I still get anxious sometimes, but I have tools for that now." "And the little ones?" Marcus asked. "Mason's arm healed perfectly," her grandmother reported. "And Sophie's started kindergarten. You should see her artwork, covers my entire refrigerator." Catherine smiled. "Ellie's been accepted to the arts program at Westridge, full scholarship. For photography," Ellie added shyly. "I'm documenting healing now, not hurt." The train rocked gently as it moved between stations. Marcus noticed other passengers, still absorbed in phones, still wrapped in private worlds, but somehow the scene felt different, or perhaps he was different. "The sentencing is next week," Catherine said quietly. Harmon's trial had concluded with guilty verdicts on all counts. His network of protection had collapsed completely, exposing decades of covered-up abuse and leading to multiple resignations throughout the system.
Will you attend?
Marcus asked Ellie. She considered this seriously. "No. Dr. Patel says I don't need to witness his punishment to validate my healing. I know what he did, and I know he can't hurt anyone else now. That's enough." Her wisdom, hard-earned but profound, moved Marcus deeply. As they approached Jackson Station, Ellie stood. "This is still my stop, but for better reasons now." She attended therapy sessions nearby twice weekly. "Will you both come for dinner Sunday? Grandma's making her famous pot roast." "Wouldn't miss it," they answered in unison, exchanging small smiles at the synchronicity that still occasionally surfaced between them. After Ellie and her grandmother departed, Catherine remained beside Marcus. "We did good," she said simply. They had, not just in saving 3 children, but in finding their way back to a relationship built on mutual respect rather than romantic expectations. They weren't remarrying. Some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt, but they'd found something perhaps more valuable, genuine friendship. As Catherine prepared to leave at the next stop, Marcus noticed a teenage boy sitting alone, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast in a posture distressingly familiar. Catherine followed his gaze. "Maybe say something?" Marcus nodded. "I will." After Catherine left, Marcus approached the boy during a station stop. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Are you all right?" The boy looked up, startled that someone had noticed his distress. "Not really," he admitted after a moment. "Would you like to talk about it?" Marcus offered. "Sometimes that helps." The train pulled away from the station, carrying them forward into the unknown. But this time, the journey wouldn't be made alone. That's the end of the story. Do you think Marcus was right to get involved, or should he have left it to the authorities? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you want more emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. Click to watch our next powerful story now.